Let's have a look at how you modify assessment tasks so that children who have visual stress, also known as Irlen syndrome or scotopic sensitivity, so that those children are going to do well in their assessment tasks. Now, pretty much this is so straightforward. It is really straightforward. And if you look at how much modifying you need to do for children with phonological dyslexia, and you look at how much work goes on over there compared to the modifications you do for someone who's just got visual stress, just got the words moving on white paper, then you'd have to say it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward, and we'd be pretty foolish to not do this. So the first thing to do is to keep in mind that many students who you teach actually do have visual stress and just don't know it. So you want to create a way for them to be assessed that's going to be helpful even to the kids who don't realise that, oh, the words are supposed to stay more still than they do. Okay, so first up, use colour paper, not white paper. The most common colours from what I can see that help children with visual stress are going to be pale blue or pale purple. So just print all your assessment tasks on either pale blue or pale purple, or even off-white, anything except white. Also, you want your children to be working under natural light. You don't want them working under fluorescent lights. Fluorescent lights are making the white paper even more white. It's just making it harder for them. So make sure when you're giving assessment tasks, you've got the curtains drawn up, you've got the blinds up, you've got it so as much natural light is flooding your classroom as is possible. Now, if your test is being done on the computer, make sure that the computer screens are a bit dimmed. You don't want a super bright background. And that's a task that you can just delegate to 2 or 3 kids and say, hey, I want you to go and make sure that all the computer screens are a little bit more dim than they are. Easy to do, makes a big difference. If your assessment task is photocopied and it's printed out, then here are some things to keep in mind. For the children who don't realise they actually have visual stress, because remember, kids think that what they see is what everyone sees. They don't realise that the words are supposed to stay more still than they do. There are ways around this for those kids. Now, one is to make sure that everything that they're seeing on that assessment task is in slightly larger text than usual, and the text is slightly bold. And the reason behind that is if it's a bit larger and if it's a little bit bold, then if the words move a bit, they're still clearly those words. If it's bold and the words are fading away, they're not going to fade away as much. So bold is very helpful. Another thing is to make sure that your assessment task has the text 1.5 or double spaced. And the reasoning behind that is that if the words are sort of moving on the page a little bit, if the words are sort of sliding around a bit, then if the words are double spaced, they're not going to run into each other. It doesn't matter too much if the words move a bit, but if the words move and then crash into each other, very difficult for kids to read. So you want large, bold font, you want it double spaced wherever you can. For those children in your class who already know they have visual stress and they use coloured overlays or coloured transparent plastic, whatever you call it in your country, those kids need to be encouraged to use those things because so often they don't use them. They fear a bit of peer pressure. They fear that people will think they look a bit funny if they use their coloured overlays. But for an assessment task, it's absolutely vital. In the same way, if you've got a child who wears coloured glasses sometimes at school for their work, it's vital to remind them, wear your coloured glasses. It's an assessment task. Because often those children, they're half-hearted about wearing those glasses. They don't want to wear them all the time, but an assessment task is definitely the time to wear them. Another thing to keep in mind is you want your assessment tasks, and this is just basic good teaching, but it has to be said, you want your assessment tasks done early in the day. You don't want your assessment task done late in the day. Yeah, it's fine for the child who has, a fantastic concentration span to have a test done after lunch. It's fine for them. It's fine if they're already thriving at school, they're great. But if you've got a child with visual stress and that child has had to work much harder to be able to concentrate all day at school, the last thing you want to do is make it harder for them by having them in an exhausted state before they do the exam. That's just not sensible. So wherever possible, have it early in the day. Look, it's really straightforward. These things are not hard. They're not rocket science. It's just a matter of being deliberate and being consistent. And it's easy to do this for your own class. Sometimes people say to me, oh, well, the test comes to me, it's preset, I don't have control over that. You know what? You do have control over it. You can take the A4 test paper that's in front of you and you can photocopy it onto A3 paper, basically doubling the size of it. That's going to be a huge help for children who have visual stress and the words are moving around. The larger the font is, the bigger it is, the less trouble it's going to give them. You have so much control, and we often don't realize how much control we've got over it. And if you have to, if you're in a spot in your school where teachers are not going to take you seriously when you start talking about making these changes for the kids with visual stress, if you're in that spot, then you be the one who sets the test. You volunteer earlier in the year to, you know what, I'll organise the tests and you guys can do something else. And that way you can be deliberate about making sure that your tests are going to work well for children who have visual stress. It's not hard, but it is important. So good luck with it.